Let's move on to our markets. We got a little market introduction as well here. The stock market, just kind of like that bill got passed there. Donald Trump's, Biden had the, what did he call his? The Inflation Reduction Act. And so Donald Trump has the big, beautiful bill. So it passed the House, so it's off to the Senate. So they're saying they're looking for like a July 1st kind of like passage of that bill before it heads back to the desk. They have a lot of processes in the United States compared to Canada, where they got the three branches. The Congress and the Senate, and then the executive branch. Whereas in Canada, you just prorogue government and do whatever you want.
I mean, we obviously have a Senate here, but they can be overruled, so it's not quite the same.
Bitcoin, though. Bitcoin. We'll talk about gold first. Gold just kind of chunking along there. Gold, playing in that range. But Bitcoin, the big dog on the block, broke out like we were talking about, and it is in new high territory right now. Shocker, eh?
You got to feel for those people that have they've lost the passwords to their external hard drives that have like 20,000 Bitcoin on them. Just gets worse and worse every day for those people.
Here's the important moment. So if it pushes through, like a little Friday, be a good thing to watch for. If it pushes through this 111,000, there's not a lot stopping it from going substantially higher. Like, do you know what I mean? Like technically, this thing could go into the 130, 140 range before it sees any resistance. But if it meets resistance here at this high, that could be a triple top almost. And that would be negative for it. It would probably push itself back down. So if you're a technical trader, you can take a look at that and see. But again, we've talked about this for how long we've been doing the show, that the wind is in the sails of Bitcoin with, like a favorable government down in the United States. I mean, that's the one that matters. Not just the guy in Vancouver that favors Bitcoin, the mayor, but actually the SEC and stuff like that favoring it, and a lot of the big investment firms in the United States favoring the investments in Bitcoin. I'm not going to lump. And here's this post from Zero Hedge, and this is a story that's been out there forever. The guy actually bought 2 Papa John's pizza back in 2010, and it took him 10,000 Bitcoin to buy those pizzas because when Bitcoin was worth nothing, they were giving away Bitcoin back in that time if you attended a conference. I think they were giving you 50 Bitcoin just to show up at a conference. And a lot of, a lot of nerds showed up there and they got their 50 Bitcoin. Probably many of them lost it though, couldn't figure it out because they thought it was worthless. Like it took 10,000 Bitcoin to buy 2 Papa John's pizza, which is now worth about, $1.1 billion, which would actually almost buy you Papa John's. Instead of 2 pizzas, you could have basically bought Papa John's, which is worth about $1.3 billion. There you go. You never know, right? There's people talking, if you listen to Michael Saylor, Cathie Wood, and stuff like that Bitcoin goes to $1 million and stuff like that. So Bitcoin is definitely, like I said, got the wind in its sails. Pierre Poilievre was a fan of Bitcoin, and Justin Trudeau mocked him on the Bitcoin many a time in the House there.
Yeah, and it worked because Poilievre stopped talking about it after that.
Yeah, you got shamed out of it, as usual. You got to have conviction. If you're going to call it, just stay with it. Because you know what? The thing about the stock market, you can be right and wrong in the same week.
Depending on the time.
You can be right and wrong in the same week. Canadian dollar, still trying to figure out what it wants to do with its life. We really need to know, like, there's going to be a moment when we know if the Mark Carney, the net zero guy, is here, or Mark Carney, the guy that's going to lead to prosperity for Canada. That moment's coming. He's going to have to make a decision at some point. And that's going to be all telling. And it's going to be all telling for Daniel Smith as well.
Well, he said that he's open to he said he's open to a lot of things, but he's sort of implied or said just about that he's open to repealing Bill C-69, for example, just as one thing. If that were to happen,
yeah,
that
that'd be
would
good
be
for
an
the Canadian dollar.
immediate kind of like setting the flare off, wouldn't it? That would be a real signal. But he just has to, or alternatively coming out and saying, no chance, like if that stays, then okay, that's also a signal. But yeah, right now he's kind of surfing the wave of ambiguity, isn't he? And nobody really knows.
Looks like a lot of interest on CN. We're going to see if we can get that interview with CN and see if we can do one. A lot of interest on our comments there on the railroads here in Canada. The in the markets too, the pension guy for CPP, the CEO of Canada's pension plan, he did okay. He got a 24% raise. He's killing it, actually, right?
Yeah.
He got with his 24% hike, including benefits, $6.3 million. John Graham. Yeah, there you go. And
wow.
it was, it's his privilege to lead that institution. Obviously, $6.3 million says, yeah, sure, I'd do it for that as well.
So he's managing cash. He's managing $714.4 billion of assets. And they expect it to be $1 trillion in 2031. So yeah, I mean that's nearly half the size of Norway's sovereign wealth fund. So
but he's
a
not
big deal.
He's not the only guy cashing in there. So also in there, senior managing director Max. I'm not going to get his big osh. $4.7 million. Oh no, so he's got 5.6, 4.7 for the chief investment officer, 3.6 for the senior managing director, and 1.8 for the chief financial officer. Everybody, Christina Fanjoy. Any relation to the other Fanjoy? That's an unusual name, though, too, right? I don't know if is there a relation there?
Possibly. I really don't know.
Bruce Fanjoy. Why don't you ask your friend there while I'm going through this here? There you go. And by comparison, the president of the CBC got a meager $551,000. Like, they picked the wrong job. They should be running the CPP pension plan. And the Bank of Canada governor, a meager $544,000. The RCMP commissioner at $464,000. The Chief Justice of Canada, $435,000. And the poor Prime Minister Carney is only making a paltry $421,000. There you go.
That's quite generous, nonetheless, isn't it?
And MPs are making $209,000, but you'll get that. You get top-ups there, though, because if you get a cabinet position, you get some big gravy top-ups, right? And then there's obviously lots of the travel and all that stuff too, right? So yeah, so that's just yeah.
I'm just looking now. ChatGPT doesn't want to tell me, doesn't want to say. It says there's no publicly available information confirming a familial relationship, but
there you go.
I don't know. I can see it. They kind of look a bit like each other. You could see relation there, but if ChatGPT doesn't know, I don't know what we can do now.
The pension fund also sank $1 billion into Tesla. This is Holly Doan's Blacklock story as well. Tesla shares have yo-yoed a bit, but they're back up. So I would say that's a great investment if you're investing in Tesla. But it's also odd that most of the investments in the CPP are U.S. assets. There you go. And the Canada Pension Plan also, along with all the other banks, abandoned Mark Carney's net zero targets. There you go. CPP says we're moving away from these net zero, because there was that. Mark Carney led that in the world, kind of like in all those alliances he read that, kind of like mandating and forcing, not mandating, but kind of like forcing banks into this ESG stuff. And most of them have walked away from that net zero alliance already. And Canada Pension Plan walked away as well. But Mark Carney in his platform said he's going to mandate them back in. We'll see where that goes.
Are these mandates, like, when has that ever worked? But I can't take myself down that road.
And if you look at this table here, and it shows that the Canadian pension plan increases its investments into U.S. investments now at 44% of the total, and Canada investment at a record low of 12%. But you are told that you need to buy only Canadian goods. Meanwhile, not so much. And then even for us, Bill C-18 still crushes independent media. And then they said they would never advertise with Meta. And we should update that story. The Privy Council, spending over $1 million just this in the beginning of the year when we last did this story on advertising for Meta, and Mark Carney spending well over $5 million with Meta. Supposedly the evil empire that's killing media in Canada. There you go.
Well, not only that, but apparently it's full of misinformation and far-right Nazis plotting all kinds of evil deeds. But that's where they want
their
message to be heard, isn't it? They want to be in among the Nazis. That's their favorite place to be.
Lining the pockets of Mark Zuckerberg. I was at the headquarters there. I did not see Mark Zuckerberg out there at the front of the sign. Microsoft laying off 6,000 people amid AI restructuring. We're going to see a lot of this coming. So Microsoft, and then the Toronto Dominion Bank also laying off 2% of its workforce.
And is that related to AI as well?
I would say so, but I don't have the full details. But the banks tend to lay off all the time.
Yeah, they do, yeah. And hire quite a lot as well.
There you go.